The NBA Coaches Association voted on the NBA Coach of the Year, and the winner was not Nick Nurse. What the hell? Welcome to Amateur Sports, everybody. Jacob Trano here, talking about the NBA Coaches Association's decision for Coach of the Year. Now, not only did Nick Nurse not win the Coach of the Year award from the Coaches Association, there were two people who tied for first. So not only did he not win, two other people got more votes than Nick Nurse for the Coach of the Year award. Now, I don't think that this should be even a question. This is not a decision. This is an open shut case for Nick Nurse, especially considering the fact that it's coming from the Coaches Association, coming from all of the coaches, all 30 voting on who they thought should be the Coach of the Year. I cannot believe that two other people have more votes than Nick Nurse. Now, granted, Nick Nurse finished in third, but one vote behind the two people who tied for first, Milwaukee's Mike Budenholzer and Oklahoma City's Billy Donovan. Now, those guys, they've done a great job over the course of this season. Mike Budenholzer won the actual award, the NBA Coach of the Year award, last season for the tremendous season he had with the Milwaukee Bucks. But I don't think he should win it again. And I don't think Billy Donovan, though he's been great, has been better than Nick Nurse this season. Sure, Oklahoma weren't supposed to be this good this season. They lost their two best players, two of the best in the league. But, they got Chris Paul in return, and, they got Gallinari in return. They got returns on losing those players. Gallinari's not a world beater, but Gallinari's a great player, and he's a good replacement. He added in and filled in for Paul George. He's not Paul George, but he's doing a good job. Chris Paul, an absolute tactician, is leading that team very well. But Billy Donovan is doing a fantastic job with an Oklahoma team who is probably going to end up being the 6th seed in the Western Conference. Mike Budenholzer coaches the best team in the NBA when you want to go by record. But we knew with Milwaukee, they were going to be the best team in the East, if not the NBA. They were that last season. They haven't really pushed on and improved from last season's performances. The Toronto Raptors were second in the East last season, but they had Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green start every game that they were available for. And in the playoffs, they started every game. The Raptors lost two key starting pieces. Now, Danny Green this season has not been the same Danny Green. But if you want to talk about last season when Danny Green is shooting 40% plus from the three-point line, the fact that you lose that without being able to replace him at all. The Raptors did not replace Kawhi Leonard or Danny Green, two essential starting pieces for their team. Yet at this point in the season, 65 games in, they have a better record than they did last season at the same time. So not only did the Raptors lose two key pieces, they didn't get to replace them in the market or via a trade, yet still have improved this season from last season. There were a lot of credited sports analysts all over North America who said that the Raptors were going to be a low playoff seed at best. Some had them missing the playoffs, some had them getting a high lottery pick. But the work Nick Nurse has done after losing one of the best players in the league, if not the best in Kawhi Leonard, and a great 3-and-D man, Danny Green, they have still managed to be a dominant force. Some have them favorites to win the East. Some have them as favorites to win the NBA championship all of a sudden. The Bucks are the same team as they were last season, and they have been marginally better in terms of record, but they're still the 1 seed in the NBA. They were last season. Credit to Budenholzer for what he's doing, but we knew the Bucks were going to be this good. Big credit to Billy Donovan for what he's doing at OKC, but is that more impressive than what Nick Nurse has done with the Toronto Raptors? I don't think so. Nobody has Oklahoma as one of the favorites to come out of the West. Oklahoma's not coming out of the fucking West. Toronto could very well easily win the East. I don't understand how we're crediting Billy Donovan for just putting OKC in a playoff spot, a team that's going to lose probably the first round of that playoffs, and how they're pegging him ahead of Nick Nurse. It's funny that the peers have voted for this award and Nick Nurse has not won. It's funny how the other NBA coaches have decided that Nick Nurse is not the Coach of the Year, because Nick Nurse has been very innovative with the way he sets up defenses, with bringing back a lot of zonal defenses. And because of the success that Nick Nurse has had using these defenses, there are a lot of NBA coaches who are copying those defensive schemes. So I think it's just unbelievable that there are coaches literally copying Nick Nurse's tactical mind on defense, yet still not voting for him in the Coach of the Year. You're literally stealing your defensive schemes from what Nick Nurse is doing with the Toronto Raptors, yet you still don't think he's the best in the NBA. You're literally taking his tactical plans. The Raptors pose the second best defensive rating in the entire NBA, only behind the Milwaukee Bucks, largely because they have a likely Defensive Player of the Year candidate in Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Raptors don't have that. They had Kawhi Leonard last year, but they don't have that. They just have a lot of great defensive pieces. Now, I think OG Anunoby is on track to be a potential DPOY candidate in the future, not this season. But that's largely on Nick Nurse developing OG into the player that he is. I mean, there's so many guys that have stepped into much bigger roles this season and have excelled because of Nick Nurse's coaching, being OG Anunoby, being Fred VanVleet, being Norman Powell. Serge Ibaka is having a career year. And even without, Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green losing those players, the Raptors have been riddled with injuries over the course of the entire season. Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, Marc Gasol, and Norman Powell have all missed more than 10 games this season. Do you really think that any other team could thrive and have 48 wins at this point with their first 6 players on the roster sheet not being available for 10 plus games each? Do you think any other team could thrive the way the Raptors had, losing all those players and still having 48 wins? There is no chance. Look at your own team if you're not a Raptors fan and decide, can your team thrive with that much injury trouble? The likely answer is no. There are some teams who have full strength and are not on the Raptors level. I mean, the Raptors are the 3 seed in the NBA having all those injuries. So there are other teams who have been mostly full strength, who have had way less injury trouble, not on the level of the Toronto Raptors, who weren't even supposed to be that good in the first place. Now, Raptors fans, we knew the Raptors were going to be good. I thought they would be a middle of the conference team, about the 4 or 5 seed. They've surprised me with how good they've been, and I had high expectations for the Raptors already compared to everybody else. I have no idea how Nick Nurse is not winning Coach of the Year when he has gone far and beyond the expectations for the Toronto Raptors, when he has set up such innovative defensive schemes that have worked to such great avail that there are other NBA coaches copying those defensive schemes, like the box and one. Who the hell was running that before Nick Nurse? Who was running the box one before Nick Nurse made it a little more mainstream in the NBA? Now, you see it all the time from teams. Nick Nurse was the one to be innovative in bringing that back, and everybody decided, since they saw it be successful, they wanted to use it as well. But these guys who have stolen these defensive schemes have not voted for Nick Nurse. It is an absolutely ludicrous decision. I think it is open shut. No doubt Nick Nurse should be the Coach of the Year. I think when it's all said and done, when we get to the real NBA awards, when the media is voting for it, it looks like Nick Nurse is the favorite. I mean, the backlash on social media when the Woj bomb hit and Nick Nurse had not won this award from the Coaches Association, everybody, even like American people in the comments, you never, ever, ever see Americans sticking out for the Raptors, but you saw it in this circumstance because everybody recognizes that Nick Nurse is the best coach in the NBA right now. And I like Budenholzer, I like Billy Donovan. They're both in my top 5 in the league. Back when Amateur Hour was just a podcast, I did an episode, top 5 coaches in the NBA. I had Billy Donovan and Mike Budenholzer in my top 5, but my number 1 was still Nick Nurse because he has been the best. He is the best right now. Won the NBA championship as a rookie head coach, and he's only gotten better this season. We'll see how far it takes him in the playoffs. I think the media will get this one right when it's all said and done. The Raptors will have another Coach of the Year. It has to be. It's already written. It can't be anybody else. You cannot convince me of anybody else being the best coach in the NBA. What do you think about this situation? Do you think Nick Nurse was in fact snubbed? Or do you think that these other guys, Billy Donovan and Mike Budenholzer, deserved it ahead of him? I know he missed my 1 vote, but it should not be that close. Nick Nurse should be by far leaps and bounds the Coach of the Year, especially when it's coming from the peers who have stolen the defensive schemes from him. But enough of my rant. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still here, please like the video if you like and subscribe to Amateur Hour Sports for more content just like this. The Raptors are in the thick of everything. thing, having just come off the win against Miami. I almost called the score down to a T. I predicted 109-102 in my previous video. They in fact won 107-103. So Raptors in action again tonight at 8 o'clock against Orlando without a Jonathan Isaac. I think that the Raptors clean up yet again. I'm probably feeling a 110, 94, 95. Yeah, 110-94 for the Toronto Raptors. I don't think it's going to be a close game because of losing a key piece and not having a great offense in the first place. But thanks again for watching. At the end of the day, believe what I say, and if you disagree, we will see you again next time.